From Las Vegas, Nevada, we welcome you to the podcast Real Estate Talk with JC Castillo. And guest.
Good afternoon, Las Vegas. My name is JC Castillo. We're here today, again, at the Equity Title Studios, talking about real estate market, what's happening in the market and everything. And we're going to go ahead and introduce our guest that we have in the studio. We have Lupi and we have Warren. Lupi, good morning. Good afternoon. How are you?
Good afternoon. Doing great. How are you, JC? It's been a while.
It has been a while. But I'm doing great. Thank you for asking. Everything is great. Mr. Warren, what's up, man? How are you?
Non-stop, man. The market keeps on going. People keep buying houses.
It's actually something that, we were just talking right now and saying, you know what, the market just doesn't stop. It might slow down a little bit, but people, they always need to buy and sell. And that's really important because a lot of people right now, again, right, they're retracting. They're thinking maybe this is not the right moment and everything. But I truly believe that this is the right moment to purchase. I mean, we were talking about new builds, and Lupi, share with us what you were noticing with the new builds, with the incentives or the amount of incentives that they're bringing.
So about 2 weeks ago, there was, and I'll use the example of D.R. Horton Homes. Mm-hmm. They had an incentive before of $5,000 and 3.99.
Right.
And a week ago or 2 weeks ago, we were there, and it was now an incentive for $7,000 for closing and 3.99, mm-hmm. and hey, whatever, the appliances are there, and it's interesting to see how much more they're willing to. And even the Century Homes up on the north side of town, mm-hmm. they're also giving $6,000 and other incentives. So it's like, well, now they're really giving more
right.
than what they were before.
Right. And we know for a fact that the builders have a strategy, right? A builder comes in and they purchase a parcel of land with many acreage, as many as they can, for a certain price. They know they're going to build 200-300 homes. So they go to the appliance company and say, hey, we're going to need 700-800 dishwashers and washer and dryers and everything. What price can you give me? And of course, I mean, if I'm the salesperson for the dishwasher place, I'm like, dude, I could give you, $200 off of each one. And they'll be like, yeah, we're saving money. So they do everything in bulk, and that's how they're able to perform and able to give these incentives. But also we know that they make their money literally on their first phase. When they're first building the community, that's where they have the high prices. And as the phases come along, then they start lowering the prices a little bit because they already made their revenue. Warren, as a buyer that is hearing this for the first time, how important is for them to really understand that this might look like a deal, but it might not be the best deal for them because they might be a little bit overpriced sometimes.
Oh, definitely. You are paying a premium, I think, in the very beginning, yeah. And sometimes you have to realize that is it worth it to pay that premium? Mm-hmm. When you are buying a new build in its first phase, you might get first pick of the lot. You might mm-hmm. you might be the only one available or the only one in line to get that corner lot that everybody wants, in a sense, right?
Right.
And cool, yes, you get to have that first pick, but there's a premium for that, mm-hmm. And you have to weigh the costs and benefits behind it. Like, okay, well, I get to have this lot, but am I willing to pay for it? And a lot of people do. That's how they get to phase 2 and phase 3, and
correct.
That's how these builders do it. So
right, and now once we're in the phase on the closing out phase, let's say like we're already built, we're in house, I don't know, 75 to 100 out of 100 houses that we're living. Now they're able to give these incentives because, again, right, they collected all these fees up front and everything. But I think what people don't understand that when they're buying into a new home, there's other costs involved, right? And I know that us that are in the industry, we hear about, well, first of all, is you're going to have an HOA payment, mm-hmm. because I don't think there's any new build that does not have an HOA.
Yeah.
And then also we hear about what's called the sits and lids that people really don't know what those payments are. And I don't know, Warren, can you explain what a sit and lid is?
So in my personal experience, I was buying out in Southern Highlands.
Okay.
This is back in like 2009. Southern Highlands back then was a brand new neighborhood, and didn't have the sewer or utilities built yet. When the developer bought that land, the way they have to build the streets and stuff like that, and so instead of they put the money up front, but they budgeted it so that whoever's buying in that community ends up having to pay for it at the end. I think it says like a sewer. That's they had to build the pipes for the sewer, for example. That's how I remember it. And when that could be $10,000-$20,000 as a lien on your property until you pay it off.
Correct.
Right. And a lot, when I was buying and I was looking at the house and my realtor mentioned this SID, I was like, "What's that?" Like, "Oh, this is an extra cost for you to be able to flush your toilet." I'm like, yeah, no, never mind, I'm good. And so I didn't buy it in Southern Highlands. So it definitely can be a turnout for some buyers, but for some, I want to say if you're buying out of the Northwest, that might be a possibility over at Sky Canyon and across the way from the 95 from there. And I think across Lake Las Vegas, the new one where they're building by the mine, I bet you there's going to be SIDs and lids in that community.
Yeah, definitely, because we as a title company, right, when you have somebody that just bought a brand new home, right, they're the first time homeowner, they're the first time buyer for that property, and now they're selling it 2, 3 years, 5 years later, we have to make sure that we collect funds for any unpaid sits and lids. And then now the buyer's like, wait, hold on, why am I paying for this? Well, because the sewer hasn't finished paying, and the street lights haven't been paying, and the sidewalk that they built, and the pavement that they put on the property, and the community park, and everything. So it adds up, right? And people, again, Lupi, I don't think they really understand that they have all of this extra added cost to buying a new home, because all they hear is, like you said, hey, $7,000 incentive plus 3.99 interest rate, but how about all the other costs? And,
the breakdown.
Doesn't the buyer really need to understand what they're getting themselves into,
Yes.
Lupi?
And they have to be not on the emotional part, the excitement of, we're going to get a brand new build, but you also have to take into consideration when you break it down, because you're buying kind of like a la carte.
Yeah.
It gets broken down.
Yes, exactly. So, you need to be able to really understand that, there are added costs to that you have to really be understanding the transparency of what the total amount of it is going to be. And let's put it like a brand new car, right? You go in and you see the car, and it has the tires, and it has the rims, and it has everything. Well, that's already included in the price. Well, with a new build, you go see the model, and they're giving you that, high-end carpet, and they're giving you the high-end padding, and people are like, what is the padding? They're like, the thing that goes between the wood and the and the high-end, tile, and people don't realize that when you actually get your home, it's not gonna look the same. Right, and I know Warren is laughing because I'm sure you've dealt with that for a couple of buyers, right?
Yeah, no, and those are the expectations that you have to be ready to compromise about. Yes, that model home has the upgraded cabinets. You might not know what the base model builder grade cabinet is. Yes, that model home has the quartz countertops.
Yes.
And your countertops might not even be quartz.
Yeah.
And you in the very beginning, you might not even know what this looks like because it's not built yet.
Yes.
And because you don't know what it looks like, you're still having this expectation, this is going to be my new house, this is what it's going to look like. And it falls short on that. People back out. Like, no, this isn't what I want. This isn't what I had in mind. And then, okay, well, we can build it without all this stuff. And then you look into how much it is to actually build what you actually wanted. Like, I had a friend, she had her bedroom, like, her main bathroom in her bedroom with nothing, because she found out how much the builder was overcharging in a sense for the type of for a builder, like a builder grade bathroom, vinyl shower. And she like, why am I paying for this? I could put in tile and my own things for way less. And so she bought a house with no shower and had it installed herself and saved even more money. So be ready to be able to do these things and to actually handle it, because yes, you if you don't want to deal with it, then be prepared to lose that money, because the way that they do those builder contracts, that money, that deposit you put down, you ain't getting that back.
No, and Lupi, it's really hard for people to understand that, because like you said, right, and I think you hit it on the nail, you get emotional. You go look at this house and it's a beautiful house and it's well decorated and it has the good and then you buy the house and then you bring your furniture into that house and it doesn't look the same, right?
Right, and it's true, because at that particular community, I happened to, this was before we went together, I had driven by where the actual community was there, so I wasn't able to go into the new build, but I went by the community and people were moving in. And they just had, like, their own furniture. So the expectation would be like, well, you're going to bring your stuff in. It's not going to be the way the model was, but but you have a home. That's probably what they're thinking. Well, you know what? We have a home. But they do need to understand of all of those costs, and they're not hidden, but you get so emotional with, yay, we're going to get a new build, and it's going to be ours. It's going to be the first. But you also have to think about all of the added.
Well, I think it's like Warren said, right? Your scenario, you have a buyer that says, you know what, I want to go buy this new home that has $7,000 incentive plus a 3.99 interest rate. And you're like, okay, let's go. You go in there and you as a real estate agent are sitting there, but you really can't do much because they're putting their contract in front of the buyer. And I know this because my son, Patrick, Patrick, he went to a new build and he's like, you know what? I need to take this contract and review it for 24 hours. And I'm like, oh, no, you can't do it. You can't walk out of the contract. He's like, no, yeah, I can. I said, this is a real estate transaction. I need to make sure that we understand this contract. This is not our, LVR, the Las Vegas realtor contract. And they got so offended because he's like, no, we need to slow it down. Because they're like, no, you got to sign it right now. Because if you don't sign it right now, somebody else is coming along the board. So they're really pressuring you to do that. And then they come in and say, oh, well, now you got to go to the studio and go select your cabinets and go select this. And like Warren said, right now they're selling you a $100 toilet for $400 that you're just so like, oh, my God. But it's the same toilet that you find at any other retailer, right? And they still really start adding up, and now all of a sudden they get a house and the backyard is not even done. It's pure dirt. And then they give you and say, you have 6 months to make this into a beautiful backyard. Otherwise, the HOA is going to start finding you. And now you really get into this scenario like, oh my God, so much I have to really pay attention. Compared to a resale, where the seller has already done the upgrades and the seller has already fixed the backyard, and hopefully you get a house with enough lot that has a front yard and a backyard, and the backyard is fenced and you have mature landscape and everything. What is the difference for a buyer to really pay attention and say, hey, maybe I should compare, not really just go and say, hey, this is the perfect house for me. Let me compare what my money could purchase for us, because right now the industry, the inventory is still really healthy. So, Lupi, for you as a real estate agent, how do you have that conversation for that person that gets emotional, like, oh, I need to buy the new home, and you're like, wait, you know what? Let's look at your options, right? Because it's really important, right?
Yes, is look at the options. Let's go look at resale. Let's go see. Let's look long term.
Yes.
Here with your home, long term. Let's look at that, and we can then compare, and then you can sit down and really analyze what is it that we really want to look at. Don't think of right now.
Right
now it looks like, wow, look, it's the best thing you can do, but let's look at what you can get with the resale.
And Warren, and again, we hear builders 3.99 interest rate and everything, but can you give us the idea, or how do I get qualify for a 3.99% with a builder? Because not everybody gets that interest rate, right?
Yeah, no. So in my personal experience, when the builder advertises those low interest rates, they have to be the lender, right? Now it's still an incentive from the builder to coax you into using their lender. Now what happens is sometimes that lender they still can't approve you with that interest rate, right? So some contracts or some salesperson or some builders are like, okay, if our lender can't do it, if you have another lender that says they can do it, sometimes they'll still honor that incentive of a 3.99 rate, and use it with another lender. They are able to do that because they will give that credit on the purchase contract so that the lender can lower their interest rate to that rate. It's possible. It definitely requires a savvy realtor, I want to say, a very strong negotiator to be able to get that. Because I want to say when a builder doesn't get a home buyer approved, that realtor just, okay, sorry.
That's it.
No more, that's it. And I want to say, no, that's not, don't stop. Like, if it really is your dream, don't quit. Don't give up. Find another lender that, that can do it, or just get another opinion.
Right.
That builder's lender is subject to limitations. They have a box that the buyer has to fit in.
Right.
And if that buyer doesn't fit in that box, that, they say, hey, sorry, he can't do it. We'll find another buyer. And
Right.
they're like, no, we're in contract for this. Like, I still have my spot for this house, and I'm saying I can get approved for this.
Yeah. So let me ask you a question, Warren. If I have perfect credit, and I have money in the bank saved, and I have a great income, can you, as a lender, get me a 3.99% interest rate?
Yes, but you'll be paying.
Right?
Yeah, you, the buyer, will be paying for it. The builder, in that case, the builder's paying for that rate,
right?
Not you, the buyer. So if you're with me as a lender, as a third party lender, yes, you can get that rate. I'm gonna tell you, yes, I can put on your loan estimate that you have a 3.99 rate. I'm also gonna tell you, oh, by the way, it costs this much.
Yes.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
I'm gonna let you know what your cash to close is so that you know what you're getting yourself into.
Correct.
And some don't. Like, I shop, I shopped around for my mortgage. This guy quoted me a 3.99 rate. And the first question, I knew that's not what the market is given. It's like, the first question I asked was, oh, how many points is that? They literally stumbled. Like, it was hard for them to, like, oh, it's $25,000. Like, yeah, you're not charging me $25,000 for
3.99%.
Yeah, like, no. And sometimes people don't know where, sometimes people don't know that cost because the lender doesn't tell them.
Yeah.
It's only at the closing table.
Yeah.
Surprise.
Yeah, and trust me, because we handle a lot of the closings. We're the ones that saying, oh, by the way, you thought you were going to bring with $12,572, but now you need $32,500. And they're like, wait, what? It's that lack of communication. Now, how is the builder able to get you that 3.99% interest rate, right? Because they're I don't want to say manipulating, but they are manipulating the whole process because the builder owns their own mortgage company. The builder owns their own title company, and the builder is the representative of the seller plus, honestly, the representative. So they're all just all in one. So they don't have let's say, a loan officer that they need to go ahead and pay overhead for because, the salesperson in there, he's generating the loan. Isn't that right, Lauren?
Yeah, no. When a builder, when you pay, let's say $400,000 for a condo, part of the reason you're able to get approved for that $400,000 condo is because the builder has a 3.99 rate. Now, after you buy the house, after the builder builds it out, and the build out is done, and all the phases are complete, try to keep an eye on the value of your home after that, because the build out is complete, now you're subject to all the other resales, and I've seen this where the builder, hey, the house is now $400,000, but after the build out, it's now $350,000, and I want to say the builder got that $50,000 from you because you paid,
Right.
$400,000. It's only worth $350 because, here's a really low interest rate. And so a lot of people don't think about that.
Yep.
The appraiser. The builder owns the appraiser.
Yes.
And the appraiser has to say it's worth this much. Otherwise, that appraiser gets no business. The other appraiser is gone. Because they have to protect the other home buyers that bought before you.
Right.
And that's it, that way they don't see that, my house got sold for less. And what happened to my investment? No, the builder manipulated the whole thing so that this house is actually, this house is worth that, but because a recent sale, sold for another $1,000, and that's not the case at all.
Yeah. So I guess what we're trying for people to understand, and again, we're not bashing any builders. I mean, by not any means, but we're just telling it how it is. The reality is that 3.99%, you're going to end up paying it somewhere. Either you're paying it, like Warren said, to a third-party lender and saying now you're going to spend another $20,000 to get that 3.99%, or somewhere along the line, your property is going to be affected where they're collecting that money, because the builders don't do nothing for free. Right? And Lupi, you and I were talking before Warren got here about the marketing, right? They do such a great marketing where everybody's like, you have the inflatable thing coming in, that's flying around and saying 3.99% interest rate and everything. That gets people in the door. But once that reality hits, it's a totally different thing, because people need to be smart when they're purchasing. When you're talking to these builders and you're seeing what they're putting out there and everything, it's a community build. And now they have a homeowners association that has to be included. And a lot of people don't understand that the homeowners association, it's paid separately as well. It's not part of the mortgage. It has to be paid separately. How do you have that conversation with the buyer for them to really be able to understand that you're buying a new build, it will come with a homeowner association, and the homeowner association could fluctuate because as they're building more, now all of a sudden they need more money to maintain the parks and they need more money to maintain the pools and everything. It's not set in stone like an older neighborhood that's been there for 30 years, 15 years, 20 years, and the HOA is $35 a month. How do you have the conversation to prepare your buyer for them to not be shell-shocked?
Shell-shocked.
Yes.
It's basically just being upfront and letting them know.
Okay.
You're going to pay for all of this, and you're not going to be able to be like at another neighborhood where maybe it only costs, your friend down the street told you, I pay $76 a month or $45, and it's wonderful. It's not going to be that way.
Right.
Because now you're paying for everything that's new, and that's basically what those salespeople will tell them.
Yeah.
Look at this beautiful, community park or community pool that we're going to upkeep for you. So this is just peanuts.
Yes.
Peanuts.
Well, how they present it, right? Well, you don't have to pay the maintenance. Yeah, you are. You're paying for the maintenance.
Everything. You're paying for maintenance.
Yes.
You're paying for everything.
You're paying for the landscape. You're paying for everything. And then not only that, but also they dictate what color you could paint the walls of the house, right?
That.
So talk to me about that.
Everything. You don't have a say.
Right.
Yes, you have a brand new build, you have a home, but you have somebody controlling how many cars are you going to park in your parking, and how many. It better not be outside, and you better not have no oil stains, because you're going to have to take care of that. You better not leave your trash can out there a little longer than the time, because they're going to come after you.
Yes.
And HOA can put a lien on your home.
Yes.
HOAs can put a lien on your home, and many a times you don't know about it. Because there was a time when I was cold calling, and they were, was it an expired? No. Oh, I can't even recall, but we called that their home was had a lien on it. They had no idea that their home had a lien. They're like, what are you talking about? I was like, do you have an HOA? They said, we do. Go and check, but there is a lien on your home. And they were shocked. They were upset. They were like, oh, how do you know? And again, it was the HOA, and they had no idea. So they can also take their homes.
And you know what's the craziest thing? Right now, a lot of real estate investors are going in and purchasing HOA liens.
Yes.
And foreclosing on properties. And I know that sounds scary, but it's happening. right? Warren, you're shaking your head.
No, I have I know of investors that's their prerogative. That's how they do business.
Yes.
Those are put out, tax liens, for example.
Yes,
they're put out by the county. Like, oh, let me get in on this. And then you own it. Now you own the property in a sense until that seller, until you put notice to that seller, like, hey, I own this house now until you pay these taxes. And some just don't. They're on a fixed income. They can't afford it.
Exactly.
It's we call it predatory lending, but that's like predatory buying.
Yes.
Like, it's sad.
It is sad,
but it is it's a loophole, or
it's a legal way.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's a legal way.
It's legal, and that's the sad part.
Yeah, but you're right, Lupi. Again, right? If you're getting into this new home build, you're getting into a property that has an HOA, and you're not understanding what the repercussions of not following the rules and regulations. Not that everybody's gonna end up like that, but there are properties that do end up in these scenarios because they file liens right away, and now all of a sudden there's a HOA lien for $7,000, and somebody's buying that lien and foreclosing the property on you. Obviously, it doesn't impact the first mortgage, but then if I'm an investor and I buy this lien for $7,000, I pay off the HOA, I get the deed of the property for the lien, and then I go and I refinance the house. Now that house is mine. I mean, it happens. So people need to really understand that these are tactics that are, like you said, they're legal ways of acquiring properties. They're probably not the best way, the most ethical way, but it happens. So we need to be really aware of what we're getting ourselves into. Right?
Absolutely.
And then again, we're saying new homes are not a bad thing, but you just got to know what the entire package that you're getting,
the entire package that you are getting,
yes.
and to understand it, and not just to be like, oh, this is okay, it'll pass.
Yeah.
It doesn't pass.
Yeah.
You need to ensure that you have it, because again, you could end up losing that property,
yeah.
or you're just going to sit there every month just paying all of this,
yeah.
and saying, you know what, I'm not even going to be able to enjoy this home.
Yeah, no, it is very true. So, again, right, we see that the market is healthy right now. We see that the lenders, the builders are getting extremely aggressive because, they're fighting for the same buyer, which means, and I don't know if we could, really say this, but can we say that it's a buyer's market right now, or there's just more benefit for the buyer?
There's more benefit for the buyers right now. There is, where you are able to negotiate.
Okay.
You can, really go in there and negotiate because there's so much inventory out there right now.
Right.
So not a buyer's market, but it is where you have that room to negotiate. It's a buyer's market, like you had mentioned before. You don't want everybody just jumping in and now you're overbidding and underbidding and just being outbidded.
Right.
But now you have that leverage to say, hey, you know what? Your home has been how long on the market? And let's talk.
Yeah, and Warren, for you as the lending side, what are you seeing as the buyers are they jumping into the market? Are they kind of like now just kind of like stand by again? Because I saw my production for Equity Title, the month of April was a really strong production. The first week of May was really strong, and now and again, like we were talking, I understand that it's graduation season right now. These couple of next 2 weeks are graduation and everything is slowed down quite a bit. Are you seeing the same thing with the lending side? Yeah,
no, our business is heavily dependent upon the interest rates that the market has. I think last time we were here, I was talking about a really good February, March, but I knew April and May was going to slow down because, ever since this thing in Iran changed, rates just spiked back up.
Right.
And if you ever follow the 10-year note,
yes,
you can use that as a gauge to see how high rates have gone. You'll see from the end of February as the bottom of the valley to we're still at the peak keeps going right now. And like I was just pricing an FHA loan today, and it went up an eighth of a percent.
Right.
And I priced it 2 days ago. This doesn't go up in 2 days.
And let's get into a little bit of the detail of that, because I think it's important for people to understand. The 10-year bond is what really sets the pricing for the mortgage rates, not the Fed rate that they come and talk all the time like, oh, the Fed dropped the rates. That doesn't impact the mortgage rate. Is the 10-year bond. But then also the interest rate could go either up and down, and you could have the best credit in the world, and that you have no control of what the banks are setting for the interest rate, right, Warren?
Correct. The crazy part is, it's all a simple tweet today can change the direction of the market. And today we had a price change, and it got worse, right? You know, I wake up 6 o'clock in the morning to see what rates are doing, but then, you know, you think it's good, and then at the end of the day, one tweet changed, and it's skyrocketed everything back up. All the gains that you thought, oh, rates are getting better again, rates are getting better again. One tweet changed everything, and it skyrocketed back up. And I have to tell the buyers, like, dude, I'm sorry, like, this is what happened today.
Yeah.
And I have to be the bearer of bad news and let them know, hey, you're no longer at 6.5.
Yeah.
It's more like 6.625, 6.75. And like, I have to create a bigger buffer now. Yeah. Just so that the borrower can still stay approved. Because if I max that out and then one thing changes, that borrower is no longer approved and they can no longer qualify because of the rate change.
Right.
Because the mortgage is just simply too high. And it's that is the reality of a volatile market. If you don't know what's going to happen, you have to adjust accordingly. And these changes, you have to be ready for it. And I'm having to say those conversations now, which is sad, because if a borrower took 6 months to buy a house, you gotta like, hey, things change. It took you this long to make up your mind and pull the trigger. Like, it is what it is. But back then, I would still have a pre-approval, right?
Right.
Now, 1 month. Hey, sorry, you're no longer approved. Like, it changed.
Right. And Lupi, as a buyer's agent or a buyer's consultant or a buyer's advisor that we want to call you, how important is for the buyer to not wait if they find a house that they like, right?
Don't wait. Start moving on it. Let's start that process.
Right.
You have to do it now. Just like Warren said, everything is doing this. Yeah. And you want to be able to get it while you're right there.
Now, let me ask you a question. If you're negotiating for the buyer and you're able to get, some kind of closing cost or, some kind of money towards buying, the interest rate down and everything, even if you have that 1/8 of a point that went up, can we utilize that money to bring it down to a place where now they qualify, or does that really put them out on a scenario that they can?
Well, that's where I love negotiating.
Okay.
Like, now we get into seller credits. How desperate is the seller to close this deal? Like, hey, the seller also understands that rates are changing, right? Yeah. And therefore, in order to make this transaction go through, hey, seller, we need your help by way of, can we get, $1,000 so that the interest rate goes back down so that the buyer is still approved again. Right. Maybe $1,000 is nothing for a $700,000 house. Okay, by all means do it. But for a $125,000 house, $1,000, like, nope. Yeah, they don't have room. Like, they're already in a tough situation, and it is what it is. Like, hey, this is what happened. Right.
So in other words, it's really important for the buyers to be, first of all, well qualified. To understand that, the real estate market is shifting literally day by day, because before it was month by month, right? And then when we see a great opportunity, we need to make a decision and not be like, well, let me think about it over the weekend, because there's probably 2 or 3 other buyers looking at the same property, and one of them is going to make a decision of let's make sure, let's write an offer, right? How important, again, and I keep on using this word important, but how important is for the buyers to really get all the conversation out of the way, so when you go show them homes, they're already thinking like, okay, you know what? If this fits my needs, I need to go ahead and write in an offer. I got to submit an offer. Why does the buyers really need to understand this current market the way that it is right now? Because they're like, oh, well, the inventory is great. Yeah, but you know what? You got houses between $350,000 to $400,000. They're flying off the shelf, and then you have properties that are $425,000. They're sitting there for 65 days in the market. Price point makes a big difference, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. It does make a big difference to them.
Talk to me about that.
Well, everybody's looking for a bargain.
Okay.
Everybody's looking for something that they feel is worth, where they're saying, you know what, no, this is too high, or this is, just right.
Right.
But if they're able to get that price, they need to jump on it. They can't just say, oh, you know what, let me go check to see if there's another home.
Right.
Let me go, you know what, I think on this side of town, I could get, by the time you've gone to this side of town and you came back, that's gone.
Yeah.
Or it's changed.
Yes. Yeah. And we have to, again, right? We're not exaggerating. This is really what's happening in the market, because we're seeing it all day long. We're seeing it, what's really, happening day to day with buyers and saying, well, I'm going to go look at a different side of town. Maybe I'm looking at the Southwest now, and I'm going to go to North Las Vegas now. And then by tomorrow, that Southwest home is off the market, and it's hitting a certain price point. Again, we need to make sure that people really understand that once they sit down with you guys and have a consultation, like, when the buyer comes in and sits with Warren and says, hey, this is all my documents, this is all my data and everything, and Warren says, well, you qualify for this much, then now Lupi goes and says, hey, we're going to go look for homes for this much. We could probably go and look for a little bit more expensive, because obviously we could come and try to drop the price. But you have to stay within your budget, right?
Right. You do have to stay within your budget, because then you're being unrealistic. Just like not going out there without a pre-approval letter.
Okay.
You're going blindly.
Yeah.
So if you start looking at homes that, well, you know what, like the new builds.
Yeah.
Oh, look, this is my dream come true.
Right.
And then it's like, well, this is the cost. And the pre-approval letter says, we can't go there.
Yeah.
That's what's very important. And that's the most important thing, is to be realistic and to understand and have those exact numbers of what you can qualify for. That's so important. It really is.
Yeah. So now let's talk a little bit about, what we were talking and saying, and we started this with the build, and, now they're giving more incentives and the 3.99% interest, but how important is to be very transparent as a real estate professional, right? You as a lender and you as a real estate professional, how important is to be very transparent on the marketing that you do, right? The pieces that you put out there. Because Warren, you're also not just working with real estate agents, but you're also looking for people that want to refinance right now. And there's great opportunities in refinances right now. You just need to know what you need to know, right?
Yeah.
Talk to me about that.
So in the case for refinances,
Yes.
There's a lot of people with a lot of equity into their houses. And sometimes people just don't know how to tap into that equity. Now, when that conversation happens and it's a homeowner, they have a 2.99 interest rate on their house. They have a bunch of equity, but they don't want to give up that 2.99 rate by a traditional refinance. There's other options to still be able to tap into that equity and still quote unquote refinances. A home equity line of credit or a HELOC is one option. You still keep that 2.99 rate, but you have this other HELOC / I call it a credit card, because you take that equity. I'll give you an example. Let's say the house is $500,000 and you owe $250,000. So you have about $250,000 in equity. Of that $250,000, let's say, no, we only need $100,000. All right, cool. Here's a HELOC for $100,000. Now, let's say you use that to buy a pool, and that instead of using all that $100,000, you only needed like $70,000. Okay, well, now you have a debt for $70,000, and you pay on that debt. Your mortgage with that 2.99 rate is still there. You never touched it, but you bought a pool. So guess what? You got to pay for that pool by way of this this HELOC, where arguably it could be better than what the pool builder is offering, and therefore it's what I'm thinking about right now.
Yeah.
So
Right.
that's why I'm running into this.
Right.
So you can definitely tap in that equity and consider a refinance to see if it solves your needs or your wants. I helped a lady with a VA loan. She was not getting approved anywhere because her FICO was too low. But based off of how much equity she had, it was able to pay off all her debts and put her in a better financial situation.
Oh.
We were able to approve that. She was able to get, she needed a wheelchair ramp for her son. It was awesome writing that letter of explanation, but I want to say that was part of why we got the approval. The way to the way to get that equity and use it to help her son, definitely touched the underwriter's heart, and got her approved despite their really low credit score. You have money in your house, and if you need it, you can get it.
Right.
It just depends on who you work with.
Right. Now, Lupi, let me ask you, if I'm a homeowner that bought my house back in 2016, 2015, 2012, I have equity on my property. I just don't know how to access it. And would you recommend for somebody to look into that equity and say, hey, maybe you have $100,000 and now you could go and buy a second home, right? Because the inventory is great, and now you're able to probably take that money out and buy a second home and rent it, and now you're building your portfolio. Wouldn't that be a good suggestion for somebody that's been sitting in this type of scenario with a home and saying, I've never really thought about that, right? How would you explain that to a buyer saying, yeah, it's that easy to really access that equity?
Just like you're stating it.
Okay.
Just like you're stating it. And being able to get them to somebody that could help them with those numbers or help them with those, whatever is out there, those opportunities.
Right.
Because it's true, many people do not know how to tap into it. And I mean, I'm listening to you going, okay, that sounds great.
Yeah.
And many people sit on their homes and they don't sell, or they don't realize how much equity they have until you're listening to it on a podcast. And you're like, now there's programs that maybe I need to refer this to someone. And either if they don't have a financial planner, they can absolutely come to you and find out what is it that we can do. Because if they're saying they don't have the funds, but apparently they do. And they're within their home. And you hear I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
No, go ahead.
You hear many people, when you're going to purchase a home, they tell you, start making that money for you.
Right.
Start making money for you instead of a landlord. That's what they're referring to, is your equity in your home.
But you know what, Lupi? A lot of people don't understand how equity is built. How am I building equity if I'm paying, I'm making a payment for my mortgage, right? Or I'm making a payment on my mortgage, and people don't comprehend how the equity is building. How are we really gaining money if we're spending money for our roof? Can you explain that to them? How equity, kind of like in a simple manner?
I'm going to have Warren explain.
Okay, Warren, can you explain to us how easy we could build equity, but just by simply making the mortgage payment?
So, two examples, right? Let's say you're a renter and you are living in a house. The landlord owns this house. You're paying $2,000 a month for that rent. You never, because that's at $2,000 and you're renting, you never own that house, right? The landlord takes that same $2,000 and uses it to pay down the mortgage. Let's say they bought the house for $400,000. You're paying let's say $2,000 a month. That's $24,000. 1 year you pay $24,000. That $24,000 dropped the loan principal, but the house is still worth $400,000. There's your equity, because the homeowner paid down his loan, and now, assuming the value of the house didn't go up, you still have equity, even because you paid down the principal. Does that make sense? You build equity literally every month, every time you make a payment towards that mortgage or towards that principal, because when it comes time to sell or refinance, you still have it. Thankfully, we are living in a world, in a market where you won't lose your equity. There's so much demand that thank God it's not like 2008 where you bought a house for $300,000. It's now only worth $100,000 because there were just ridiculous amounts. Like back when I bought a house, I had to put 40 offers out there because all the investors kept buying it up. And because people left their homes, they didn't own it. I don't think that will happen again. Right. Knock on wood, because and that, I think, is what protects people's value in their homes. That's what protects their equity. There's still enough demand out there. If you're not gonna buy it, someone from California is gonna come buy it, because if you're not gonna buy it, someone from Hawaii, people are actively moving into the city every day because of the growth that we have, and because of that, that's how we'll be able to build equity. Now, on the flip side, if I was in Detroit, Michigan, Flint, where they had that water issue. Right. People don't want to live there. They don't want to be there. Jobs are going away.
Scarce.
And people are moving away. So there's a bunch of houses. Well, let's say you pay $500,000 for that house, but people are moving away. They don't want to spend $500,000 for that house. They want to spend maybe $200,000. And it's all dependent on the market that you're in to be able to, have that peace of mind that I will build equity. Now, and I want to say, if I'm doing loans in Michigan, I'm gonna have to have that conversation. Like,
right.
Do you know what you're doing and what the potential possibility is by living here? I'm not licensed in Michigan, but I imagine. I hope the lenders out there have that conversation with them and understand the market. I don't know what the market is like there, but I imagine people aren't buying as much as Vegas. I'll tell you that, because we're hotter. So hopefully that answers the question of what equity is like.
But do you see the difference from? I'm going to explain it from an expert explaining it.
Right. But Lupi, you as a real estate agent now, right? When people come in and say, well, I'm afraid that my property is going to drop in price, or there's a bubble, because we keep on hearing there's a bubble. Just hearing Warren's conversation right now is like, Las Vegas is we're such a unique market because, we keep on getting growth, not only, housing market growth, but we're also economy, right? I don't know if you guys heard this, but 2 days ago, they just mentioned that we're getting a professional women's hockey
yes,
league.
We are getting it for the 2026-2027. They still don't have a name,
right?
But it will be here, and because it's 600 plus percentage of female women and girls in hockey that they decided, we're going to do it, and that's what they're doing.
Right.
And it's coming. We're going to get that baseball field that's going to be here. We're turning into a sports city.
100%.
And we are growing. There's so much growth, and I think we're not going to be a bubble. We're going to be booming with how much growth.
Right. So again, right, if you just heard a master class, if I want to call it that, a master class on how we build equity, and you haven't bought a house, 10 years from now, you're not going to be in the same position where, we're going to be talking about $400,000 homes. We're going to be talking about $800,000 homes.
1 million.
We're going to be like California.
Last time we talked about how I told you guys that the median sales price in California is $975,000. Well, we're going to be that medium sales price here in the next 10 years. And hopefully I'm wrong, but I'm not going to be wrong because of all the benefits that we have. Yes. We're talking about how they're building. I don't know if you guys have seen right there, right in front of the the South Outlet Mall, they have the parking lot for the train station. That is coming. Everybody's like, I've been hearing about. Well, it's coming.
Yes.
It is going to be here, and that's going to be a game changer as well, because now we're going to have a whole bunch of people that work in California. They're going to take a train, be here in 2 hours, and live here because they have the benefit of no state tax. That's another benefit, right? And you work with a lot of sports figures. You work with a lot of, there's a reason why UFC is here in Vegas and not in LA, right? Why?
The benefit of the sales tax, the benefit of the growth here. And they're also booming. Yeah. They are growing. They've got slap, they've got boxing now, and the UFC, the fighters. It's just amazing with the growth. Lots of growth, and many fighters that are coming in.
Right.
And they're always purchasing, and they're always looking into it.
Yeah.
So
well, we all need a roof over our head. Some of us bought a good roof and we're still under it, and then some of us are buying it right now, and you're going to be in it. I think the message is for the people that are listening to this podcast is real estate is a long-term investment. Those years of you bought 6 months ago and now you're flipping it for $200,000. That's not happening anytime soon. The normal growth in a real estate market is 4 to 5%, but here in Vegas we're seeing 12-15% year over year, and that is very huge because again, right? Not only I'm buying a house for $100,000, if I just do nothing but make my mortgage payment, and if the growth of the equity in that area is 15%. That means my house is going to be worth $115,000 the following year. Mm-hmm. And then if we do that math, the next year is going to be $130,000, and it just keeps on adding on because we have such a steady market and we have such a bold economic market, right? Like you said, we have sports, we have so many other things coming in. It is really important for the buyers to really know I should be at least the minimum either talking to Lupi or talking to Warren and say, what are my options, right?
Yes, very true. And I think that's why, and not to veer off, that when I go out and I'm in the community and I'm recording and I go to the different areas, I want to showcase our city, what we have.
Yeah.
And if you live here, this is what you have. If you're on this part of town, this is where you're 15, 20 minutes away from everything. You're not sitting in traffic for an hour to 2 hours to get from the valley to, Whittier, California.
Yeah.
It's like, you're here. It's all here.
Yeah.
And the homes are beautiful, and they are affordable compared to other states. And I won't mention California, but and that's why I do that, to show you, look, this is what we have here. Yeah. This is where you can go, and this is where you could live.
Yeah, and I love your videos because, again, right, you're in the community, and I love it because your branding is boots on the ground, and literally you are walking the whole city. I mean, I know you're driving from place to place, but last time you were at Durango High School, and then you were at another school, and you're showing people, hey, if you live in this area, this is the school your kids are going to go to, and I don't see any other agent, Warren, correct me if I'm wrong, doing that type of, literally Las Vegas marketing. That's what it is, right?
Yeah, I love that she is showcasing Vegas for the reality.
Yes.
None of the glitz and glamour in a sense, but this is what Vegas actually looks like, right? Most of the time, if you see a realtor showcasing Vegas, they're showcasing the strip.
Yeah.
You as a homeowner, if you actually buy it, you'll never see that.
You won't go to the strip.
Only if you have guests in town that want to go to the strip, and we all dread having to drive through the strip and getting into that traffic on the Las Vegas Boulevard. But we do it because you're my friend, and I want to see you also. So thank you for coming here. But the reality of my life is, hey, maybe there's this park at Piccoli Ranch that I walk every morning. Hey, maybe there's this farmers market at Sky Canyon on Fridays or something. Like, it's activities that people actually want to do and that is actually valuable to them.
Yes.
I could care less what show is on, is at the Sphere.
Right.
As a homeowner, like
as a local.
And sometimes there's agents out there that's what their whole, there's creators out there that's their whole thing. But I love those agents who showcase the neighborhood and its little hidden gems that creates value for me. Like, I know there's this little trail in Southern Highlands of this walkway. It's really long. It ends at the park, but I personally that's partly why I wanted to buy it in Southern Highlands at one time, just because of this trail. Like, I saw myself walking my dog, and it's fully shaded, and we go to a park. Like, my dog loves the park, and that's why I want to buy it. And when you showcase those things, it's like, maybe, I don't have kids, but as far as education is concerned, like, I want to know how good this school is. Right. What kind of programs is there? Is this something that my son or my daughter will want to do? And kudos to you for doing that, because keep doing it, because that's where the true buyers are. That's where they're gonna reach out and like, Lupe, hey, you posted this one thing. What's up with that? That one question, that's your lead.
Yes.
And capitalize on it, because now you get their contact information, and it might be 2 months down the road, 3 months, 6 months, a year. It doesn't matter. But just because they reached out, they're yours.
Yeah, and that makes a big difference, Lupi. And again, I applaud you for what you're doing, because you're really showcasing the local way of life in Vegas, right? I see you're at different communities, but then all of a sudden you stop at the farmers market, right? Or you stop at a small hole in the wall restaurant that is really good and has been there for 10, 15 years, and you're really showcasing our city for the people that are eventually going to be moving in. and making a decision on where I want to live based on your videos. And I think that's great because, again, right, getting to our marketing, what we were talking about, you're marketing not only the real estate in Las Vegas, but you're really marketing Vegas. You're really boots on the ground in Vegas. I think it's phenomenal because I've actually watched videos and I'm like, oh my God, I know exactly where she's at, right? Like I said, I recognize Durango High School. I recognize there's so many other things, but I'm like, that is so cool because unless you live in the neighborhood, you don't know where Durango High School will be. Why do you make those videos? Why do you decide where to go? Or how do you decide, today I'm going to be going here? How do you pick those areas?
Well, education means a lot.
Yes.
It really does. Many, many years ago, I was an elected school official in California, and education meant a lot. Mm-hmm. And so when I go to these schools, I think, okay, what's going on in this school? I don't give all of the background of the school or whatnot, but I just talk about it.
Yeah.
And I've also gone to the Challenger,
yes, yeah,
which I know it's a private school, mm-hmm. but they have a basic program. I believe it's from 1969, mm-hmm. basic, and that's what they use.
Right.
And it's a really top-notch school.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got day school being number one.
Yeah.
You've got Meadows, mm-hmm. and of course, you got Bishop Foreman.
Right.
And maybe because I've got so many grandchildren that I think of, education.
Yeah.
But then I think, okay, you know what? This is your local school. There's a local park because I see so many people in the evenings, like Warren was mm-hmm. talking about, his dog likes to go to the park.
Yeah.
And I see a lot of people out in the community mm-hmm. where it's like, you know what? If you live here, this is what you get.
Right.
This is the community, and where I did a couple of videos at a little local park by where I live. Mm-hmm. I'm like, at night, people are out there with their kids. Yeah. You hear them, and it's already late because it's getting warmer.
Yeah,
but I just want to be able to show them, look, this is your school. This is your community. This is our community.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing.
Our community. And whenever I, I've gone to the local casinos, mm-hmm. and it's like, if you want to get away. And for Mother's Day, I did go to the Sphere because I mm-hmm. wanted to see the Wizard of Oz to show them, but also just how beautiful. If you just want to say, I want to be a tourist for a day.
Yeah.
You don't have to drive
4 hours.
4 hours to get somewhere. It's right here.
Right.
Or you go inland in town like we all are, mm-hmm. and we do what us residents do.
Right.
And that's what I don't know. To me, it's like, let me show you the farmers market. Let me show you the marketplace where you can have a glass of wine as you're buying your groceries.
Yes.
It's like that's to me. It's like maybe somebody will feel that's important to them, and they'll want to live up at
Yeah. And I think you're doing a phenomenal job. I do have a suggestion for you.
Yes.
Tomorrow, all weekend in the Las Vegas Valley, there's a soccer tournament, right, for young kids. It's called the Jeff Bush Tournament, and they're playing in Betty Wilson, KZ, down the street over here, and Heritage, right, and everything. And there's a lot of people that, like sports, right? So, if you have an opportunity to go and talk about, how they have that the rugby plays down on, I think it's Tropicana and Decatur. There's that park.
Yes, that park. There's a Home Depot across the street.
Yeah, there's a Home Depot.
Yes, okay.
You know what I mean? Like, those are things that, people that are moving to Vegas, they're like, well, I don't want to be in the strip. No, but we have a bunch of things that you could do that are non-strip related. So, again, little suggestions for you. But I really appreciate you taking the time to showcase our city, because that's really what you're doing. And with that being said, you're not going to believe this, but the hour's gone. The time is gone. Yes, it is. So give me your contact info. How can somebody get a hold of you and say, hey, you know what? And I personally say, if you want to buy, you should be contacting Lupi. She is going to tell you exactly where you need to be. She's going to partner you up with Warren and tell you this is the lender. We need to make sure that we get you qualified. But then also, she's going to listen to your needs and put you in the right location that you're looking for, because that's what you do. Boots on the ground.
Boots on the ground. Absolutely. I definitely will. And if you're looking to buy or you're looking to sell, give me that call.
Yep.
Reach out, because you're not going to get, fluff and puff. You're going to get the real thing. I'm going to come to you honestly, transparently, and be there with you along the way. And Lupi Salas, with boots on the ground, 702-503-7822. I do work for Conrado and Company. And you can also reach me on social media. Salad with Solace. Oh, and I did have to share.
Yes.
If anybody is aware, but the Graffiti Mansion, my name, Salad with Solace, is on there now. And it'll be there permanently. And I'm super excited. And thank you for getting me on that wall. I'm really excited about that.
Awesome.
But
Congratulations.
Thank you. And again, I'm going to continue to walk them streets to show the city, because you know what? I am proud of our city, the growth, and where we could all be here together, and the opportunities that are there and being able to purchase.
Correct. Mr. Warren, please give me your contact info.
Hey, you guys. My name is Warren. I'm a mortgage lender with Loan Depot. You can reach me at 702-545-7099. You can find me on Instagram at the Cabasa, THECABASA. You'll see me there, constantly. You'll see this. So please reach out.
Awesome. Well, and my name is JC Castillo. I am with Equity Title. Again, you can reach me outside of the air at 702-416-4302, or you can follow me at JC Castillo Rep on my social media. And again, if you're interested of purchasing, you want to know more about Las Vegas, please contact Lupi. Please contact Warren, because these are people that are here every day to make sure that we educate you, to make sure that you have the right process of buying a house. We didn't want to scare you about new builds, but we just want to be transparent of what's happening, so like that you know what's going on. So we're going to be here next 2 weeks.
2 weeks? Yes.
Yeah, and 2 weeks from now, we're going to be here, so please stay tuned. And if you like the show, give us a like. If you don't like it, let us know why, and we will definitely go ahead and, accommodate you. So please let us know. We'll see you here on the next episode, and I'll see you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.